I have the best daddy in the world, but don't take my word for it. Listen to what these people have to say about my daddy or Paco the realtor, as you know him. They better be nice to him.
All right. Good morning, guys. I am here with a good friend of mine. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Laurie Yates, and we first met through Victoria Avenue forever, but I very much enjoyed getting to know Paco, and he's recently served in excellent fashion as my agent to sell a property that I needed to have off my hands.
Okay. Well, yes, as Lori was saying. Now, Lori, you are the only, is it master gardener? Or what is
The Master Gardeners are a program that was developed in the 80s by a very smart man named Ted Stamen, who was a cooperative extension advisor in New York State. And the idea was that citizens would be trained and then volunteer their time in an organized fashion to teach basic gardening skills to private residents, because so many people called the cooperative extension offices asking questions that it made it hard for the advisors to get out and do field work where they were supposed to be.
Gotcha.
And Ted brought that program to UC Riverside. It was adopted, I should say, at UC Davis the following year. It spread throughout the state, and then through 44 of the 48 states and into Canada.
And you are now, if you went through that class or you learned that, you were called a master gardener? Is that correct?
You had to go through 50 hours of training, and it was junior college level training, basically. They wanted you to come out with a 2-year equivalent knowledge of soils and plants and climates. And you had to study and attend classes, and at the end of the 50 hours, you had to take a written exam, which you had to pass, and you had to requalify every year. And you also, during the course of your training, did 50 hours of volunteer work under the supervision of more experienced master gardeners. And your first year after you qualified, you were still kind of a newbie in going through the cycle. But eventually, it was something that I really loved doing, getting out, and a lot of it was teaching children how to plant during a time when the city was doing a lot of tree planting and rose planting. And I, within a few years, became the Riverside County chairman for 4 years of Master Gardeners. But I am a retired Master Gardener now because I have not maintained my active status.
But that's okay, because I've spoken to Lori about, I want to have a monthly session with her where she will be teaching me about master gardening here in Riverside. She's already given me already educated me on soil and how that affects, the spring, how our sprinklers affected by the soil, and a lot of us are doing it completely wrong because the soil does not absorb as quickly. So there were some things she's teaching me, but anyways, we're going on a tangent. But here's the important thing. Once a month, I will be meeting with Lori, having a session on techniques, skills, and as we call hacks, about how to become a local gardener within our backyard, which we all want to do. And I know I'm one of them. I have a backyard that I want to do a lot too, so I'm going to pick that brain of hers and use it. So let's get to why we are here. I wanted to bring Lori out because one of the biggest things I see is when people buy and sell a home, there's fears attached to it. The fears of the unknown, the fears of being ripped off, the fears of, am I doing the right decision? The fears of a lot of things. Is this going to go right? And you've seen me on camera multiple times say, you sell and buy based on your goals, not on what somebody tells you. Goals dictate everything, the why. And with Lori, she had an investment property. She needed to free up some cash. She spoke to me. It was actually about a year ago when I first started with Victoria Forever about the possibility of doing this. Circumstances changed where she needed to free up, and so she said, "Paco, help me sell this." Now there was some concerns because there was tenants who had been there 19 years, so you could imagine the condition wasn't as updated as possible. And we wanted to avoid trying to pay any money up front to do a lot of repairs. The roof, it has a pool equipment, and other things. And that was the challenge on this one. So we went ahead and moved forward with the sale of the house. And Laurie, let me ask you this. What were your expectations going into this? You've obviously sold a few houses in your life. And bought a few houses in your life. So what were your expectations and your fears going in through this process?
There weren't really a lot of fears, and I think that was due in part to the fact that I had already learned your competence and experience in these matters, and you have a manner that I think would probably soothe and encourage the most difficult people to work with. And one of the tenants, in fact, was kind of an interesting character, a good man, but very strange in some respects. And so I think the big concern was that we could diplomatically get the tenants to move. And in that, Paco was extremely helpful. He really went the extra mile to help them learn their price range, what was available, what was possible. He actually showed them some houses that they could rent, and he did everything he could to ease it for them, among other things. The lady's mother, who is in failing health, was in the house and on oxygen. And this was a big issue while the necessary repairs were being made, and these things didn't bother me because this is all, I put it all on Paco, and Paco handled it. And I knew he would handle it beautifully. But there was some finagling that had to be done in order to encourage the tenants on out, and then to do some of this work while they were still in the process of moving, and to protect the tenant's mother's oxygen supply.
Right, and one of the challenges was, obviously, you have to serve them legally with a 60-day notice or whatever it may be, paperwork-wise. They pushed back on it originally and said, well, she said this, and that was a different conversation we had to have. The other thing was, I realized early that they were going to milk it for as long as they could. So I made a point to show them rental properties, even though I wasn't going to.
You had no obligation.
I wasn't going to make any money. I just did that because I needed them to put in their head that this was real and this was going to happen. So after the inspection was done, a few repairs needed to be done. Nothing major, luckily. But one of the things I had to do, there was some electrical work I had to do, and the tenant's mother was on oxygen, and all these machines were plugged in, which really made it challenging for us to try. So we had to wait till they went to church, or they took her to the doctor's for about an hour. So my electrician had to go out there in that little gap to turn it off. So luckily we were able to work it out. And at the end of the day, we were able to close escrow. We got what we needed. I want to thank the buyer's agent, Gabby Ochoa. I'll give props to the other agents also. She was great. She was phenomenal, and working with her buyers on her side. But at the end of the day, every escrow has challenges. Every sale has challenges. Every buyer has challenges. As long as we know them up front, we can work with them. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution in my life. And, and luckily, Lori gave me full power to do what I needed to do. Of course, with her blessing.
Yes, of course.
And so we can move forward. So overall, how do you think, did it go as planned, better than planned, or not as planned now that we've closed escrow?
I think it actually went better than planned, given that we were dealing with the challenges associated with the tenants. learned a long time ago in my long life that everybody has their expertise, and I'm not going to try to second guess the expert. So I was trusting you pretty much to handle these things. I wasn't getting flustered about it. I wasn't worried about it. And
I wish I could get my wife to be like that. Sorry, honey, I love you.
well, I think a lot of it has to do with the challenges you've had in your past. My husband did 2 tours in Vietnam, and now that he's gone, I'm still discovering some of the things that he suppressed from all those years ago. And there's experiences like that that give you a sense of proportion where everything else just isn't as important. And I think that I've faced the big stuff, the truly big stuff, and
Put things in perspective.
Everything else, yes, everything else is
Puts in perspective.
Put into perspective where it's just another nut in the bowl.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, we accomplished the goal we had at hand, which was to sell the house, minimize the money we had to put up front. I want to thank also my contractors that went out there. They were able to help out and do the repairs before close of escrow, and then wait till escrow closed so she wouldn't have to come out front with the money. So I really thank them for that. At the end of the day, I think the big thing is, what I like to get out is, there's going to be issues. As long as we know them up front, we can work with them. And everything has a solution. Everything has a solution. And one thing I want to thank Lori for, which I thought she was great about, was the decision. We had a decision to make up front. Put money into the home, sell it at top dollar in Riverside, or sell it as is and drop the price. And we've decided.
We decided to drop the price, and part of my reasoning in that was that every buyer probably wants to personalize the house they acquire. And in the house that I live in now, it appeared to be absolutely beautiful when we bought it. We couldn't find anything to criticize, and then after we were in, we found some serious problems. And that was something that we dealt with, and then dealt with the cosmetic and quality of life things later. But the upshot really was that once I got to know the house by living in it, there were things I wanted to change. And I kind of assume that every buyer will want to put their imprint on the house they buy.
And this is what happened. And so by dropping the price below market by at least $15,000, what we were able to do was we were able to get a competitive market of buyers. Because as you guys know, in today's market, it's a seller's market. So everything tends to be a little overpriced. And so by pricing it correctly, it went rather quickly, and we were able to move forward. So is there any last words regarding the process that you have? I know you've already kind of said you were happy with the process and the way things went. You kind of left everything up to me, but anything else you'd like to add, or is that pretty much it?
Well, I certainly would recommend you to anyone for the foreseeable future.
Wisdom right here. Wisdom.
I already am. I really appreciate it when you have someone who's very, very capable and willing, and you can just transfer all the uncertainties onto their shoulders and quit worrying.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what Paco did for me.
Transfer all your pains to me. Thank you so much. All right, guys. If you guys have any other questions or information, if you guys would like to know more about, if you're in a situation where you have investment properties and don't know whether you should sell them or not, I make money when people buy and sell, but half the time I tell people they shouldn't sell because it's not what their goal really is. All right, guys, until next time, this is Paco the Realtor. Hey, thank you so much for watching our videos. I appreciate it. If you really like the content, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. We'll be putting out a lot of content on a weekly basis, which will be real estate related and a lot of stuff of just me ranting. So thank you. Remember, subscribe.